In Rainbow Six Siege, everything can eventually be boiled down to attack versus defense. As in everything, there is a lot of intricacy and intimacy between these two forces. Ideally, defense will be the unmovable object to the attack's unstoppable force, but it hardly ever works out perfectly that way. Nearly every round is different in the slight details, which is why adaptability is important. Between the different maps and metas that are within Siege, one may have the advantage over the other. As the attack meta evolves, so does the defense meta in order to counter it, and vice versa. These different metas eventually bleed over into the maps because of the aspects of each map. These maps always offer specific sightlines and setup opportunities that may lend the advantage to either side. However, no meta is ever actually permanent, as both sides are always evolving. In a perfect vacuum, attack would appear to have an overwhelming advantage in comparison to the defense. This is the effect of loadout choices, optic choices, and gadgetry. However, Siege does not exist in a vacuum. The attack needs these advantages in order to compete with the advantage that defense has. Attack has the misfortune of constantly being against the clock, as well as having to take control of held territory. Every second that the attacking side wastes pushes the defenders closer to victory. Attack, however, has the advantage of being able to play angles from the outside. This includes rappelling and window play especially. The attack can play these long angles and force the defenders into the open through the use of lethal or non-lethal utility, like grenades, capital bolts, montagne shield, vertical play, or any other form of displacement. Defense, on the other hand, is not allowed to leave the building without being spotted via live information. This practically ends with any defender playing long or short angles outside. The attack does, however, have a unique advantage over defense. The attack generally has the freedom to pick apart the defense in a unique way. It is also easy to adapt an attack to certain circumstances. This is due in part to the amount of information at the disposal to the attacking team through drones and multiple intel operators. If there is intel that there are 3 people roaming out of sight, the attacking team can use that to their advantage by quickly pushing onto site and getting a plant down. In this hypothetical situation, the remaining 3 defenders would have to attack their own setup, effectively reversing the roles of the attackers and the defenders. If the defenders are all holding on and close to site, then the attacking team can take that information into account and not worry about doing a full roam clear. Attacking at the core is all about efficiently exerting influence over the map and defenders. Usually, if the roam clear is done within 30 seconds to a minute, that leaves 2 full minutes for the attackers to get into position to clear the area. Let's say that a hypothetical meta-attacking lineup would be Ash, IQ, Sledge, Ace, and Montagne. This would put the defense into one of 2 positions: banning one of the operators in this specific lineup in the ban phase before the game starts, or letting the meta lineup through so they can use it on their attack rounds. Both have their benefits, and both have their drawbacks. If the defending team bans one of these meta operators, whenever it comes time for them to play attack, they will have to play a subpar lineup instead of, meta. This is usually referred to as off-meta. If they decide instead to let the meta lineup through, they will be allowed to play this specific lineup on their attack rounds. However, during their defense rounds, they will have to deal with the meta lineup themselves. Now, it isn't particularly that black and white. For the metas nowadays, there are usually more than 5 operators that can fit into those specific roles. For instance, you could swap the Ash for a Zofia and the Ace for a Thermite. Defense as opposed to attack has the advantage of not only time, but also map control. The defense starts the round with full indoor map control with the freedom to fall back to safety whenever they want. This advantage really plays out whenever a significant amount of time is wasted in the process of returning to safety. In an ideal defense round, the roamers would waste not only a minute or two, but would also destroy a decent amount of the attacker drones and soak up some utility at that moment. As said earlier, however, rounds are hardly ever ideal. The defense should always focus on repelling the attack away from sight. If that means keeping the roamers off sight to die to save the round, then so be it. Winning is more important than staying alive. Remember, defender rounds are won through time. If the attackers do not have the time necessary to get on site and plant, the round is an easy win for the defenders. Every situation, though, is dynamic. If the roamers are always left to die to waste time, the attackers will usually start to catch on to that. That therein is the beauty of defense. The setups can be changed and adapted not only to how the defense played last time, but also how the attack played. Typically, it is a good idea to keep an eye on what the attackers did last time. Keep in mind where the drones pushed from. There lies a hint that shows the general direction their attack intends to take. If you saw for 2 rounds straight 3 drones coming from the east side of the map, it can usually be assumed that the attackers intend to push from there. In defense, there is a term called counter-strategy. This refers to any time the defense adapts to an attack in real time without prior knowledge or intel on the strategy before the round started. Whenever looking at defense, it is best to set forward with a general theme or idea in mind. The strength of defense is the coordination of not only the players, but also the gadgets. A Goyo by himself is merely a man with 2 shields. However, put him with an Aruni, Jaeger, Wamai, and Smoke, and you get a very potent setup that will waste a massive amount of time and attacker utility. Mute, while potent by himself, is amplified alongside a Mbazi, Vigil, Castle, and Aruni. Whenever looking at the primary and secondary gadgets, it is important to keep in mind the uses of these gadgets. Don't think of the part as a part, but instead as the sum of each part. It is also easy to make other, less meta lineups that function to set the enemy team off balance due to expectations of a meta lineup. There have been, through Siege's history, many different metas, some of them extremely oppressive. Take for instance the aforementioned Lion meta. Lion alongside Jackal was an incredibly oppressive attacker lineup that single-handedly swung the game from defender to attacker sided. This was due in totality to Lion's gadget. His drone would mark a full body outline on any defender that moved during its duration. This, whenever combined with a drone or Jackal scan, led to a defender being marked regardless of whether they moved or not. This led to Lion and Jackal being able to clear an entire roam within moments, with each kill almost certainly confirmed. Similarly, on defense, there was a recent meta called the utility meta. While it is still partially around, it wasn't nearly as bad as it was then. This meta involved the deployable shields, Goyo shields, and Jaeger alongside Wamai in order to stop every piece of destructive utility the attackers could throw at it. The ideal lineup from this time was Smoke, Jaeger, Wamai, Melusi, and any other 5th, ideally Goyo and Maestro. This was strong because it consistently led to there being only 20 seconds in each round for the attackers to execute on sight, and barely any utility left to do so. Maps also have a strong bearing on the meta. Even to this day, some maps are stronger for attack while others are stronger for defense. Alongside this, there are others that are distinctly in the middle. Villa is a good example of a defender-sided map. All 3 of the common sites are strong and can be held with a variety of different methods. This also culminates with each site needing to be approached from 3 to 4 choke points at the time of execute. Conversely, Coastline is a prime example of an attacker-sided map. This is due to multiple repel and outside positions that not only cut off roamer rotations, but also cut site rotations in half. This leads to little safe space for the defenders to play in. Whenever one side of the site gets cleared by the attackers, it is extremely isolated and hard to take back. At the moment, one of the most balanced maps in terms of attack and defense is Chalet. This may be due in part to the current freshness of the map caused by the rework, so this win rate might change as the meta evolves. If you could like, subscribe, and comment, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching.